Welcome to Meme Breakdown Episode 2. Today's meme is as follows, that Amber Heard's diagnosis of BPD is going to create a whole new level of stigma for personality disorders. Having BPD doesn't make someone an abusive person. Being an abusive person makes them an abusive person. And as someone with some personal experience on the subject, dated them, I have a pretty unique perspective on this topic, I think. And what I would first say is, it always reminds me of those geometry questions, sometimes, always, never. And my point with this one would be, sometimes this is true. Now, I think that it would be more appropriate to say, this is creating a whole new level of awareness of what borderline personality disorder can look like and be in relationships. And that is true. This is a possibility of what borderline personality disorder can look like. Does it look like this every time? Does it look like the way Amber Heard has been every time? No, it does not. But can it sometimes? Abso-frickin-lutely it can. Now let's examine why this is. Well, there are certain traits of BPD, the fear of abandonment when acted upon, intense rage, uncontrollable anger, for example, changing opinions of someone, rapid changes in self-perception, unstable sense of self. Some of these can absolutely turn into abuse when acted upon. Sometimes it's emotional abuse, sometimes it's physical abuse, and sometimes it can even be sexual abuse. But it would be completely false to say that that never happens. It does absolutely sometimes happen. Does it happen with everyone who has BPD? No, it does not. But does it happen with a percentage? Yes, it does. How high is that percentage? I'm not exactly sure. But I do know without a doubt it is not zero. Like, there is certainly a percentage. Also, when a person splits, there can be abuse in the form of neglect as well. So there's many traits of BPD that if someone is not working on it, going to dialectical behavioral therapy, going to CBT, and becoming very aware of their condition, and they do not learn how to take a step back before reacting, and they do not learn how to respond, guess what? They can absolutely be abusive. And as someone who has a commitment to the truth, I have a commitment to being authentic and the truth. I can't say that a BPD person will not be abusive. Now, they're going to say, well, that's not the BPD that's making them do it. They're just an abusive person anyway. And it's like, how do you know? How do you know that? It's a chicken or the egg problem. When someone has a disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and some of the traits are, as we mentioned, uncontrollable anger, intense mood swings, splitting, the fear of abandonment, just to name a few, those can absolutely look like abuse and be abuse if acted out upon. If someone doesn't have that level of self-awareness and they do not know how to take a step back, which is something they will learn in dialectical behavioral therapy, they'll feel that initial burst of anger, or they'll learn to question their splitting, or they'll learn to question their unstable sense of self, or their ever-changing opinions of others. There's ways to talk about it and ask yourself questions. Is this accurate? Why do I think this? What actions have displayed in this other person that makes me think this way? Am I really being level-headed here? Now, but this is the kind of thing they talk about in dialectical behavioral therapy. But if someone has not done this, then they just fly off the handle and they'll do the first thing that comes to their mind. Now, does it always look like abuse when they do it? No. But it often does look like emotional volatility, which sometimes can be abusive. Sometimes it can just be emotionally abusive or neglectful, which is another kind of abuse. But often it can. But does it always? No. I'd say there are probably some BPD people that aren't abusive. It just comes out in different ways. Like there's a quiet BPD, for example, that all of their rage gets flipped on the inside and they turn it towards themselves, and there'll be more self-harm or suicidal idealizations and dark depressions. That's true too. That can absolutely happen as well. But I want to make it clear to people that, yeah, abuse is certainly one thing to watch out for when it comes to BPD, and I do not think it's wrong to say that. I think this meme in particular is dying for some nuance because sometimes they are abusive, other times they are not. I do not know what the percentages are of either one, but I know it's false to say they are never abusive, right? And when the traits like BPD are, as I said, that's why it's so important for someone to get help. And this is the other part. No one can make someone else get help. No one can give someone else the desire to change. That has to be something they want to do on their own. And this is why it's dangerous to be in relationships with people that have personality disorders, because oftentimes they're not going to change because they don't have the desire to change. And the only way to determine someone's true desire to change is to take a look at their actions. If they're not doing the footwork, if they're not going to DBT, CBT, or whatever, then to me, the desire is not there. They can talk up a good game, but at the end of the day, if their actions are not congruent with their words, then to me it would seem like they do not really want to change. And I can hear BPD people saying, well, they really want to, but the disorder gets in the way. Or, I can't help my disorder, this is just how it is. And it's like, well, if you're going to claim innocence like that and be the victim of your disorder, then maybe you really aren't ready to change. And maybe you shouldn't really be in too many relationships because that's exactly the kind of person that will hurt someone else. So again, if someone has this disorder, it's up to them to do something about it. And always remember enlightened self-interest. We can best help others when we help ourselves first. And the best way to help often is to be a good example. But again, when it comes to BPD, they have to want to do it on their own. We can support them, but we cannot do the work for them. And their actions will really display how willing they really are to change and what their desire is to change. And I fully acknowledge and admit that when someone's depressed and someone's going through those rapid mood swings, it can be very difficult to do the best things for themselves. It becomes the hardest when their mental health is at its worst. This is very, very, very true. It is. And I have sympathy and compassion for that. But at the end of the day, they do have to do something different. If nothing changes, nothing changes. And if they want to change bad enough, their actions will change, right? And they always say, when the pain gets great enough, people will change. That's a saying from AA and NA, and I have found it to be true. So when someone has BPD and the pain is great enough, they will eventually do something different. But we can't give them that gift of willingness or desire. No one can give it to somebody else. It has to come from within. The most someone else can do is support that other person on their endeavor and try to be understanding. But again, if you're on the outside looking in to a person that has BPD and they're being abusive and they're not changing their behavior, then by all means get out of there, because it doesn't help anyone to be a martyr. Like, to me, in the radical self-respect way, we don't tolerate consistent abuse. We teach other people how to treat us. And if someone's going to consistently abuse us, violate our boundaries, that's not really someone we need in our lives at all. So again, I have sympathy and compassion for the issue of BPD, but at the end of the day, actions will speak loudest of all. And not only just actions, sometimes what people aren't doing speak very loudly as well. So if they're not doing something that they said they would, pay attention to that too. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about this meme here. Do you have BPD? What are your thoughts on this meme? Have you been in a relationship with someone with BPD? What are your thoughts on this meme? Do you have a family member that struggles with a personality disorder? What are your thoughts on this meme? I would love to hear all of your thoughts because I think they're all valuable and they contribute to the discussion. So thank you very much for watching and have a great rest of your day.